My ex-husband, who divorced me 6 years ago after a traumatic and manipulative marriage and has since remarried a Brazilian woman and divorced again, is suddenly reaching out trying to reconnect, but I've built a beautiful life with a woman I love. I got married in 2016. I was 22 years old, young and idealistic, and very much entrenched in the values and expectations of the Mormon Church. I married someone I truly believed I'd spend my life with. We'd been together for 4 years by then, 3 of those married. I thought we had been through a lot together already, but nothing really prepared me for what our marriage would become. Our wedding day was supposed to be joyful, but it was overshadowed by tragedy. Just before we were married, his father was in a devastating biking accident and ended up in the ICU. It was surreal, walking into the temple to get married while his father was fighting for his life in a hospital bed. The day after we returned from our honeymoon, the family made the decision to take him off life support. That trauma, the death of his father, became the foundation of our marriage. Everything that happened after was colored by grief. I did everything I could to be there for him. I'd never experienced a loss like that myself, so I didn't know what the right thing to do was, but I tried. I told myself that his anger, distance, or lack of consideration weren't his fault. He was grieving. And who was I to question that? As time went on, red flags started surfacing. They were subtle at first, disguised as quirks or moments of tension, easily brushed off or rationalized. But one of the big ones came up when we started talking about children. Specifically, who would be allowed in the delivery room when I gave birth. He told me flatly that it would just be him and me. No friends. Not my mom. Not my sister. No one else. I pushed back, gently at first. I'm Brazilian. My family is everything to me. My mom is someone I've always leaned on for strength. The idea of going through labor without her felt terrifying and isolating. But when I voiced that, he turned it into an argument. He accused me of being selfish, reminded me that I got the wedding I wanted, and claimed this was his one non-negotiable. He quoted Bible verses like, "A man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife," twisting scripture to support his control. Somehow, I ended up being the one to apologize. Again. And that's how it always was. When something didn't feel right, I'd try to speak up. I'd ask for acknowledgement or accountability, just a simple, "I hear you," or "I'm sorry." But the conversations would always twist. He was so skilled at flipping things. Before I knew it, I'd be the one saying sorry, even though I was the one hurt. Even though I had come into the conversation for closure or connection, I'd leave feeling confused, guilty, and ashamed for even bringing it up. We eventually went to couples therapy through our church. I think part of me hoped that bringing in a neutral third party would open his eyes, that maybe someone else could help him see the ways he was shutting me out, controlling the narrative, and leaving me emotionally stranded. For a while, it seemed to help. He even started seeing a therapist on his own. I thought maybe we were finally turning a corner. But then his therapist moved away. And that was it. When I asked if he planned to find a new one because it really did seem to be helping him, he shrugged it off. He told me he already had all the tools he needed. That therapy was just a confirmation of everything he already knew. He said, "I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and they just tell me that. So, why keep going? What's the point?" Fast forward to 2019. By then, I was working at a psychiatric institute, an intense job, but honestly, one of the best places in terms of the friendships I built there. The people I worked with really helped keep me sane during that time. I had a solid group of coworkers, and among them was one woman I grew particularly close to. She had been there about a year and a half before I joined, and from the very beginning, we clicked in a way that felt natural and easy. We talk about everything, our partners, our frustrations, and slowly, our deeper feelings. I felt like I could finally exhale around her. I started confiding in her about the cracks in my marriage. She listened. She validated me. I learned the word gaslighting from her, something that struck me so deeply I remember the exact moment she explained it. It felt like someone had finally handed me a word for what I had been living through. It was like stepping outside of a fog and realizing I'd been choking on it the whole time. We shared a lot, including things I'd never dared to say out loud before, about sex, about doubt, about loneliness. She didn't flinch. She saw me. One night, she and I and another female coworker decided to go see a horror movie. Something casual and fun. But the movie disturbed me more than I expected. I was genuinely rattled, and I remember her noticing and asking if I was okay. We held hands during the movie. Not in a romantic way, at first, just as comfort. But something changed after that. There was a shift I couldn't ignore. It wasn't just comfort. There was an electricity, a kind of intimacy I hadn't felt before. Definitely not with my husband. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. There was this magnetic pull between us, something I had never experienced before, especially not with a woman. It was thrilling and confusing and terrifying all at once. It sparked something in me that I didn't know had been dormant. That moment sent me into a full-on faith crisis. I told my husband I might be attracted to women. I expected heartbreak or maybe even anger. Instead, he said, "That's hot." Just like that. Like it was a turn-on. I remember feeling so caught off guard. Something deeply personal and confusing was brushed aside, turned into a fantasy for him. And from there, things just spiraled. He gave me permission to get to know this coworker more, but everything came with strings. He'd monitor our text conversations and let me know what was acceptable and what wasn't. It was this bizarre arrangement where I technically had freedom, but only the kind he curated. He even suggested I start watching lesbian porn, like I could figure out my sexuality that way. Like it was a kink instead of an identity. We discussed the possibility of me kissing her. He didn't say no. But we never clearly set boundaries, and without any structure, everything blurred. And I crossed a line. I kissed her. Twice. And I lied to him about it. I knew it was wrong. I knew it would hurt him. But in that moment, I felt so alive. I felt seen. I felt wanted, safe, understood. She made me feel more like myself than I had in years. Eventually, I couldn't carry the lie anymore, and I confessed. He called me every name imaginable. I took it. I didn't defend myself. I couldn't. I had betrayed someone I once loved. But then he went a step further and told my parents. He said, she had an affair with a woman. That's how they found out. Not from me. He forced my secret into the open, not out of love or concern, but out of spite. We still tried to make it work. We took one last trip together, to Peru. It was supposed to be a reset, a fresh start, but it was a disaster. I couldn't even pretend to feel okay anymore. I shut down. I couldn't relax around him. I couldn't connect. All I could offer was sex, and even that felt hollow. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Every moment I spent in Peru, I was haunted by her smile, her voice, the way she made me feel whole in a way he never had. When we got back, I started therapy, mostly because he told me to. But deep down, I knew I needed it. I was unraveling, and I needed someone to help me make sense of all the tangled threads. We agreed to separate. We drew up rules. I could go on dating apps and talk to women, but I couldn't go on actual dates. I couldn't contact my coworker. She was off limits. Meanwhile, he was allowed to talk to women and go on dates. And he did. 2 or 3 that I know of. One of the biggest emotional wounds I still carry from that marriage isn't just about the big moments. It's the small, everyday rejections that left me feeling invisible and unworthy. Things I don't think he ever realized hurt me as much as they did. I would ask him to do things that weren't unreasonable, just simple, caring, respectful things that anyone who loves you should be willing to do. Like brushing his teeth twice a day, wearing his seatbelt. Just basic hygiene and safety. But he'd brush it off like I was being controlling or naggy. Every ask, no matter how small, became a battle. And the one that really stung was the topical medication. I had this skin discoloration on my back, something I was deeply insecure about. I hated how it looked. It made me feel embarrassed, and I was already vulnerable about it. The treatment was a topical cream that needed to be applied regularly, and I couldn't reach the area on my own. All I needed was for him to help me rub it in. It smelled a little medicinal, sure, but nothing unbearable. Still, he refused. He said it was disgusting. That he wouldn't even touch it with a glove. He told me that if I wore it to bed, he wouldn't sleep in the same bed with me. That was the level of rejection. It wasn't just about the cream. It was about how little effort he was willing to make to support me, even in my moments of vulnerability. It built up. All of it. These small moments where I asked for help, for comfort, for connection, and got indifference in return. They chipped away at whatever love I had left to give. Then July and August of 2019 rolled around. He could tell I was pulling away for good. That the version of me who once tried to hold it all together was gone. And suddenly, everything changed. He cried. He begged. He listed out every single thing I had ever asked of him. Brushing his teeth, the seatbelt, the cream, and promised to do it all. Promised to change. Promised to be better. Said all the right things. Said he was sorry. said he couldn't live without me. And yet, I was already gone, emotionally and mentally. I had nothing left. No anger. No fight. Just this quiet knowing that I couldn't do this anymore. That this relationship had asked me to shrink myself in ways I didn't even recognize until it was too late. Still, the one thing I regret, the one thing that still nags at me, is that I didn't ask for the divorce. He did. He was the one who finally said it out loud. And I let him. I think part of me still wanted to be the good one, the person who tried everything, who didn't give up. But truthfully, I had already let go. I just didn't have the strength to be the one to make it final. We divorced in October 2019. And then, 5 months later, in March 2020, he remarried. To another Brazilian woman. 5 months. I won't lie, that hurt. Even though I was done. Even though I knew it had to end. It was jarring. Confusing. Like, had he really changed? Or had he just found someone else who wouldn't ask him to? He moved to Brazil. Became an influencer. His social media exploded. Suddenly, he was this guy with a story, a narrative. And then, in 2022, a friend sent me one of his videos. A slideshow set to a song about betrayal and unfaithful women. It featured photos of him looking miserable. Our wedding photo among them, my face hidden, and then transitioned to sunny, glowing images of his current wife. The message was obvious. He had been broken, and now he was saved. I remember watching that video in disbelief. Not out of jealousy, not even really out of anger. More like a cold wave of sadness. Because while he was out there crafting a version of the story where I was the villain, I was silent. I never made videos. Never aired it out online. The one time I even hinted at our relationship, a put a finger down TikTok challenge right after the divorce, I deleted it within days. I didn't want to be petty. I didn't want to be that person. Fast forward to June 2025, 6 years after we signed our divorce papers and walked out of each other's lives, I get this bizarre message on Instagram. It was from his verified account, which honestly made it feel even more surreal. The message said, "Hey, $2 or a mystery message in your DMs. LOL, this may sound crazy, but would you be open to talking in a video chat?" I stared at it for a while, thinking maybe it was spam. It was so strange. Like something from a cringy TikTok trend. I didn't respond. Didn't even open it. Just ignored it completely. That same week, through the Brazilian community, which, let's be honest, never misses a beat, I found out he had divorced his second wife. The same woman he married just 5 months after our divorce. The one he posted about relentlessly. The one who was in all the finally found happiness content. And now that chapter was closed too. I didn't feel vindicated. Or satisfied. Mostly just annoyed. Like, here we go again. 2 days ago, he tried again, this time via Facebook Messenger. "Hi. I know this sounds loco, but would you be willing to talk sometime? I had a really sweet experience the other month and would like to share it with you." This time, I didn't just stare at it. I got genuinely irritated. Because what kind of twisted logic leads someone to believe that after everything that happened, after 6 years of no contact, I just sit down for a cozy little chat? I don't care what sweet experience he had. I don't want to hear it. I don't want him to reconnect. I don't want to walk down memory lane or hold space for whatever he suddenly decided is important enough to share. Maybe it's closure. Maybe it's a confession. Maybe it's a desperate grasp for something familiar now that his second marriage has crumbled. But that door is closed. Locked. Bricked over. I threw away the key. And here's what he doesn't know. In these 6 years, I left the Mormon church. I came out as bisexual. And in May 2020, just months after our divorce, I took a chance on the person I had once kissed in the darkened safety of a horror movie theater. My coworker. My friend. The woman who stood by me when I was unraveling, who saw me not as a problem to fix, but a heart worth holding. We've built a life together. A real one. Full of dog hair and shared responsibilities and lazy Sundays and crying through nursing school exams. We have 2 dogs and a cat. We have a rhythm, a peace. And yeah, it's not perfect. We've had our struggles. But this is the healthiest, most honest, most freeing love I've ever known. I still look at her and get butterflies. 5 years later, and I'm still stupidly in love with her. And somehow, in the midst of all that growth and healing, he thinks he gets to swoop in and tug on old threads? No. Absolutely not. I won't lie, part of me is curious. I'd be lying if I said I didn't wonder what sweet experience he had. Or what's made him reach out now. But the bigger part of me, the healed part, the wise part, knows that curiosity is not a good enough reason to let him back in. Not even for a conversation. I don't owe him that. Not anymore. I've worked too hard to build something sacred and safe. And I don't want him to have access to any of it. Not to my peace. Not to my relationship. Not to the version of me that finally feels whole. So, how do I respond? I don't. Or maybe I block him. Or maybe I send a message that's simple and firm. Hi. I appreciate you reaching out, but I'm not interested in reconnecting. I wish you well. Please respect my boundaries. Maybe I say that. Or maybe I say nothing at all. But what I do know is this. I'm done giving him real estate in my mind, my life, or my heart. He had his moment. He had years. And now? Now it's my time. And I'm not looking back.